My name is Corinna McQuaid.
Ajani Davey.
Barbara Griffin.
Tiana Smith.
I'm Kayla McKenzie.
I'm Asia Siani Holmes.
And I'm Daisha Terrell.
I'm Destiny Smith.
Nikia White.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask, what do you guys think this is a diagram of? That's a rhetorical question, don't really answer it. Do you think that is the number of McDonald's in America? Do you think it's the number of Wawa's, the number of schools? No, it's the number of shootings that have happened in 2017. Alright.
So we basically believe that no person, no professor, no student should be armed on campus because they don't have a right to take lives of people.
How easy is it to take a life? For me personally, I did research on federal gun laws. I already knew prior that federal gun laws have certain prohibitions to certain people who can possess a firearm, convicted felons, unlawful drug users, if you got discharged, unlawfully, dishonorably discharged from the military, and also if you're under the age of 18, but that changes. Like I read that there's certain things where, like if you have a good reason, like if you want to use it for target practice or sport or whatever, and then there's other things. Laws based on who and where you can carry vary upon state. And you're also required to have a licensure to be able to sell and purchase and carry a gun. However, even with these regulations, it's still really easy for someone to get a gun. Even people who get them legally over the age of 18, they get it for hunting or whatever the case may be, for protection. They often end up sold onto the streets to people with mental illnesses, people who shouldn't have a gun, don't have the mental capacity or the mental stability to be able to use a gun. And then I just have a video for you that I found where a 13-year-old actually walked into a shop, or I think it was a gun convention, and he purchased a gun.
Not just you and me, but the whole ship. Take a ride with Jack, a 13-year-old boy from Virginia, who just got his braces off and usually spends Saturday morning playing basketball with his friends. But he's also a young actor. And today, we hired him to help us make a point. We asked him to take a drive around town. With his mother, of course, since he's not nearly old enough to drive a car. We pass shops where he isn't old enough to work the register. Then we stop at the convenience store to see Jack try to buy beer. The cashier can't believe he even tried. At the next store, Jack tries to buy cigarettes, with no luck. Later, he strikes out trying to buy Racy magazine.
Alright, okay, thank you.
And then lottery tickets.
Can I get a couple scratch-offs?
How old are you? You're
13.
30? You what?
13.
It's laughable to everyone here, the idea that we ever expose a 13-year-old to the dangers of a lottery ticket. But then we arrive here, at the gun show.
Pretty good for you. I'll take it.
Within minutes, the 13-year-old easily and legally bought a .22 caliber rifle from a private seller and walked away with it.
Well, federal
So
law
the point
mandates
is we
must
know
be
that
maintained.
a 13-year-old isn't responsible enough to buy alcohol. They wouldn't let him have cigarettes, nor would they let him even buy a scratch-off, but he was able to buy a gun that could easily take
From a licensed dealer, the sale in that video was made at a gun show and is considered.
if he didn't know that otherwise, just the pull of a trigger could take multiple lives.
So as Corinna was saying, a lot of guns are sold through, A lot of guns are sold through no questions asked transactions. As you saw in the video, he didn't ask any questions, he just sold him the gun. But I've done some research on some statistics about murders every day and children ages 0 to 19. Every day, 46 children and teenagers are shot and murdered. 46. That's like one classroom of children. A whole lives ahead of them, wasted. Every day, 7 teenagers die from gun violence. Not as much, but still 7 is pretty dramatic for every single day that you count. 365 days a year, 7 children, you do the math. Every day, 40 children and teenagers are shot and survive. They survive, but why are they being shot in the first place? So all ages, every day, 318 people in America are shot in murders. Every day, 96 people die from gun violence, all ages, every day. And 220 people are shot and survive every single day. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday, doesn't change. Somebody's always getting shot.
Currently, I'm new to Del State campus, and so currently I just done some research by some police officers local that I know on campus. The policy on campus and through some of our friends is you just don't bring a gun on campus unless you're law enforcement. Although this has proven that it has not stopped guns from getting on campus, and students that live on campus, attend for classes, or visit them from transporting weapons on and off campus. Only text alert exists by teachers not privately training students if there is an active shooter on campus. Students who commit criminal behavior, act out of violence, threat, or conduct that demonstrate lack of respect for property and others may lose the privilege of attending Delaware State or being subject to other disciplinary measures. In addition to the specific infractions, community lives and criminal laws prohibit in this handbook: shoplifting, drugs, violation, violent act, use of weapons on campus or all, conveying bomb threats or other obvious violations of criminal laws may be dealt with through both criminal systems in Delaware State, according to the state handbook. Through some of the students who've been on campus longer than I, there have been 2 recent shootings that happened on campus, and one where a student was murdered after being fatally shot in the abdomen, and 3 students were shot at a DSU field day. And that just goes to show how easily, although there are gun laws, that you never know, police officers don't know if the students are carrying guns, or how, just like any other normal school day, a kid can walk into a school and they don't know if they have guns, because there's nothing that protects the school, nor our officers, if they don't know that guns are being carried on. They just don't know that if a staff member or somebody is carrying a weapon that could hurt them. So things that could happen, such as metal detectors being placed in school that can determine, not where there's someone who the state has to pay to stand there and wand every person down that walks in and out of Del State, but metal detectors, which some states are implementing in schools. There's metal detectors being put in the door frames to stop kids from bringing knives, and it's not always guns, knives and things like that to school. We don't have enough law enforcement to have dogs walking around campus, sniffing cars and stuff like that, nor do we have the state funds that we're going to pay for it. But it's important to protect as a whole, for Del State to protect as a whole, their police officers that are on campus and their students who pay a lot of money to come to this lovely campus to be safe and a place that's open to not only the students but to the public, people who can just come on and off campus on a daily basis.
So she touched on a very important part in her slide, our students, and that's what I'm going to continue. So just to look at our campus does have about 3,993 students enrolled. 64% of them are females. So I made this little picture here, and about 36 are males. So I thought it was important to talk to some of the students, and just for confidentiality reasons, I kept their responses anonymous. But I asked 3 basic questions. And the first question was, are you familiar with active shooter procedures? The second question was, are you comfortable with and aware of public safety's presence? And the third one was, ever recall being in a dangerous situation and not receiving help in a timely fashion? So the reason why I did the 2 different colors was the red are things that like strike us and that we should pay attention to, and then the white are things that aren't that much of a concern and that are good. So in this first category, there's a few no's and there's a somewhat and a yes. So that tells me that some students are familiar with our procedures, but a good amount of students aren't familiar with the procedures. I remember a specific scenario last semester where I was in class and I had received a text alert, which is something that's in place, but my teacher wasn't aware of what to do. He left the classroom, told us that we were kind of responsible for making a decision as to what we are going to do. That's very alarming, not feeling safe, not knowing, okay, if I walk out here, is this person on campus or not? So that just definitely goes to show that we do need to make students more familiar with the policies and procedures. And we do have a handout that we'll pass out a little bit later that just lets them know kind of what's in place right now already. And then as for this column, we have a lot of yeses, only one no, so that shows us that you guys you do have a presence and that a lot of students are comfortable with you, so that will make it really easy for them to become more familiar because they already know of you guys. And then in the last one, all of these no's to me, minus this one yes, just also goes to show that when they did have a dangerous situation or they did feel that something was going to happen, that you guys responded in a timely fashion. So that gives us a really good framework moving forward.
We kind of stepped up the game a little bit, and we wanted to see what other countries were doing with problems with gun violence. So I went out and I looked for some of the countries that do have schools in the country that have both elementary as well as high school students. Israel, for instance, they have no guns in the school. Nigeria, which is part of South Africa, they don't have any guns in the school, and neither are the administrators or teachers allowed to carry guns. But it's interesting in those countries like Czechoslovakia or even the Czech Republic, as where there are areas that they call free gun zones. And those zones are where guns are not allowed. And it was interesting to find out that in Israel, it said that they cannot carry, as a result, you cannot carry a gun. Listen to this. You cannot carry a gun in a bank or in a post office, but you can carry one in a school. Now figure that one out. So, and then it depended on, the gun laws depended on whether or not hunting was a sport or was it a part of their livelihood, as to how easily a gun can be purchased. So, with the no firearms free zones, although the staff cannot carry a gun, people are allowed to carry guns in that area.
Alright. I kind of did a little bit more and I researched other universities and colleges just in the United States. Over 4,000 colleges prohibit the carrying of firearms on their campuses, and this is making educational institutions somewhat more safe when they have policies installed. And I think everyone would agree that when you're getting your education, you kind of have a right to feel safe at all times. Just a couple things. A student from Summit University in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, which is one of the safest universities in the United States, said that there was always a friendly face from security walking around their campus, and that the head of security always took the time to get to know his students, which I think was great because it kind of creates a more of a personal bond between, the officers that are protecting us as well as the students to make, when you create a bond, you feel more safe, you feel more inclined to protect, and as well as students feel more inclined to ask for help. At Corbin University in Salem, which is actually really close to a prison, said they have one of the best safety rates. A student said that they have campus control 24/7, and if for some reason they don't feel safe, there's a number to the school security on the back of their ID card, so that way they can call at any time, and that a security guard would either, respond to the situation, walk them to their car, to their dorm, or whatever the case may be.
Okay, so these are ideas that we came up with to increase the safety and awareness. So one would be to update active shooter policies and procedures, increase staff training and development. Last semester, there was an incident where students were left to fend for themselves after receiving a text alert. Increase public safety, place more officers in residence hall. There have been complaints at the yards. Be more alert to what's happening and respond immediately, and ensure that emergency buttons on campus work properly. Students have pushed them buttons and no one has came to help them, leading us to think that they might not be working. They wasn't working. Yeah, I'm pretty sure none of them work. I know the one beside Conrad doesn't, and I'm not sure whether anywhere else, but I know the one beside Conrad doesn't. I've seen people push it, and that's it. So to make sure students have easy access to contacting our safety personnel, I feel like we have apps that we can use, and I know through your iPhone, like if you set it up on your emergency and you click it 5 times, it'll call like 911. So I feel like we're pretty good right there. Install more lights so that the campus is well lit, especially at night. This is a big one. It's really dark on campus. Really, really, really dark. Really dark. Have an escort program where regulated personnel can walk students to their building or car after dark, and increase surveillance and utilization of security cameras on campus.
And I also just wanted to add something into that, and we just back up at the increased public safety presence. The reason why I put that Welcome Days picture up was just because the first time that we see the students is when they come in for their orientations. So I think if we really focus on the officers, like making their presence there, I don't know if you guys already do or not, and then just doing something regarding active shooter policies and stuff right at the onset and what they can do to be safe, I think that would be good as well.
And just to continue on like ideas for increased safety, we had make the students feel comfortable enough to call campus police, like just seeing their faces more. Have the students understand that when they report somebody like with a gun or anything, that it can be reported anonymously, because like a lot of students may be scared that, you know, somebody might come after them or somebody may find out that they snitched, and not snitching is a big rule in our community, period. So they may not come forward as much. Have public safety do more patrols at night, like not even just like in the car, but like walking through the campus, because a lot of people walk at night, the whole walk of shame. It would be nice to like see police like walking through there, because that part is dark also. Like you may only have the lights of people's rooms if they're up. Have like regular monthly drills. Like y'all know back in like elementary school, middle school, high school, y'all had the fire drills. Everybody knows what to do for a fire drill. You walk out, don't go to the stairs, but what exactly do you do for an active shooter? Like back in my school, we had tornado drills. We know what to do for a tornado. And for a fire drill, we don't know what to do for an active shooter. We don't know exactly where to go. Like this room is very open. We could go into that little corner, but we're not all gonna fit. Yeah, window we got. And basically have more emergency buttons on campus. Like, yes, some of them may not work, but at least make them work and have them like more on campus, not so spaced out. Like there's one maybe in the Ville parking lot, and then there's one near the administration office, near Conrad. If I'm running from somebody, that's really spaced out. I can't run everywhere. They want to catch me somewhere. So just have them like more close by, not close together, but like close by and like in certain areas where people are alive. So.
Obviously, things need to change. So to wrap everything up into one, it's clear today that we have a gun violence issue around the world and even on our Del State campus. So we also have to remember that in today's generation, our everyday typical police officer is painted in a different way. So back in the day, as someone we seen as someone as our protector, is now seen today as our enemy. So now it's like, where do we go from here? So instead of us sitting here trying to focus on the law-making part, because if we focus on, being more strict on the rules, we come into political issues with the liberals and this and that. So let's take a social work point of view. Let's work on that communication, that one-on-one, because honestly, I've been here for 4 years and I've never seen either one of you guys. That's a problem. Like, 4 years, I've never seen you. Don't know your name, don't know you from Canopy. That's the issue at Del State. Like, we don't have that interaction between you and I. So if there was an issue, if I didn't feel safe, I could come to you. Because sad to say, I live in a yard, so the 3 cops that I do see in rotation don't have the greatest communication. So I feel like anybody who works in the communication field has to have that training to be able to communicate with me, because I'm younger than you. So the way that you might communicate with somebody older is different to the way you communicate with me. So that's where that barrier comes in as well. So I think we all just need to keep in mind that, today's generation is it's a completely generation. So I feel like if we able to communicate better and we see you as a different person, then maybe, a lot of things at Del State can be avoided, because now I can feel comfortable enough to come speak to you, to tell you I have an issue, to tell you I don't feel safe, that I'm scared.
I think that's the end.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Patrolman Camacho wants to just address the issues.
I'm surprised you've never seen me, because I'm all over the place. But for you folks that don't know me, my name is George Camacho. I am your campus relations officer, believe it or not. I don't spend a whole lot of time at the yards, but I do spend a lot of time on campus, just trying to meet as many students as I possibly can. Now, we do talk to the RAs, and we do train them on active shooter situations. You well know the residence halls here are all different. Warren Franklin is different than DeVille. The courtyards is definitely a different, beast when it comes to those kind of things. Right. So with that said, I'm gonna definitely bring that to the chief, that we do need to do more to reach out to students with respect to active shooter drills and those kind of things. Even to the professors, I believe we need to be contacting the professors as well, so that they know what to do as far as if they get that text message. They need to keep their students, they need to barricade themselves. We do follow the run, hide, fight model, which is the Department of Homeland Security model, where your first option is to run away as far away from the shooter. If you can't do that, then you hide. If you need to hide in your classroom, then you want to barricade your doors so that you prevent that shooter from coming in. Now, for some reason, the shooters do want to come in for whatever the reason, then your last option and your very last option is to fight, which means you have to take the shooter out. Now, with that said, this is a different presentation, so I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. With that said, if you look at the Waffle House shooting recently, they took out that shooter, okay? God bless you. There are other situations where they've actually engaged the shooter and took him out. So I've just contacted my lieutenant from security. They do a check of all the blue lights. We call them blue lights. And he's telling me they're working. Now, I don't know if they weren't working when you checked them or whatever, but something tells me that if someone's pushing that button, it's probably to get the police officer to respond. It's not an emergency, right? So that's kind of called, what's that called? A false alarm, right? You don't want to be doing that. But nonetheless, he is going to check them. They check them every Monday. All right? So one more thing. Does anybody have a 911 shield on their phone? No. So I heard you mention something about, you haven't? Okay, so I heard one of you folks mention something about the panic buttons not working.
They pushed them out, so now we don't even have any.
Right, at the Ville, there used to be like alarms and all that. Well, what happened was, just like anything else, when they built the university, they had contractors, companies that came in and installed stuff and got their money, and once, who knows, they might not even be in existence, like they might not even be in business. So now you don't have someone to maintain that. So what they did was, they got rid of them, but they passed out this 911 Shield app that you download into your phone, and basically what it is a panic button. And so when you activate it, you're going to get like a red bar on the screen, and that red bar says emergency. And when you push that red bar, it's an automatic connection to our 24/7 dispatch. You're not going to hear a ringtone. You're not going to hear busy tone. You're automatically in there, like talking to them. They can hear you. You can hear them if you bring up your phone. Now, with the no snitch policy, I get that, I know that there's a lot of people that don't want to be snitches, but you know what? If someone has a gun in this school, in this classroom right now, and I didn't want to be that guy, I didn't want to be that snitch, everyone carries their phone with them all the time. So it's nothing to hit that icon and push that red button and be saying something like this. I can't believe you brought a gun to school. Why would you bring a gun to school? You know, why would you be trying to hurt people with that gun? You know, everything's going to be okay. Just because the professor's giving you a bad grade doesn't mean you have to be, you know, and so the whole time you're saying that, they're hearing you, right? And then they have a computer that's on sleep mode, and that computer activates or wakes up when you hit the button, right? So it gives them your location. But if you wanted to say, you know what, I can't believe you brought a gun to school, BOA, room 105. So, you know, you help us out with that. But 911 Shield, and it has the escort, virtual escorts and all that. You want to talk about reporting anonymously? You can send us text messages anonymously. You can send us pictures, videos anonymously. Now, I will tell you, they're not going to get you, when you send these things, you know, like if I send you a text, right, and you don't have me in your contacts, what are you going to get? A phone number, right? That's not going to be the case. You send a text or a video through this system, it's not going to show up as your phone number. All right? It's going to be a bunch of nonsense letters, God bless you, nonsense letters and numbers, and only an IT person will be able to determine what those numbers mean. It's not going to say, you know, it came from Miracle or something like that. Okay? I hope I've addressed some of the questions. But I totally agree with you as far as us being more engaged with students. By the way, a lot of these stories that were brought up just now in reference to you know, the universities that are successful, most of the time is because, you know, they treat the universities as communities. And if we as police officers, if we do a good job, our gauge as to how successful we are really is the community. Like the community will say, yeah, we approve of you folks. You folks are doing a good job. That means that we have a relationship with the community. So if you see something, you say something. And if it involves a gun, there is no snitch rule or policy when it involves a gun. Someone brings a gun to school, you should do the right thing and let us know. All right?
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Lene Powell.
I'm Cameron Mickle.
I'm Susan Ellis.
I'm Lucy Salinas.
I'm Alexia McClain.
I'm Omaladio Ladara.
History of concealed weapons. The head of the NRA in 1934 testified in Congress against what he described as promiscuous toting of guns, aka concealed weapons. And he said it has no place in everyday life. And yet, over the last 30 years, a deep change has happened in American law and in American habit, where state by state, places that once prohibited or strictly controlled the ability to carry a gun in everyday life have systematically relaxed those rules to the point that concealed carry is now illegal in all 50 states. So something really profound has changed in the way that we use guns in America. Statistics. At least 15,549 people were killed by guns in the United States in 2017. The national firearm death rate climbed to 12 people per 100,000 people in 2016. Every week, 136 children and teens are shot. Approximately 50% of unintentional shootings were self-inflicted. More than 135 students in the United States have lived through school shootings since Columbine. Hospital calls for firearms injuries totaled 622 million per year. A handgun homicide is 9 times more likely to be found justified when the killer is white and the victim is black. Right to carry laws are associated with a 10.6% increase in the state's handgun homicide rate. Americans are more likely to die due to gun violence than to many of the other leading causes of death.
So this chart right here is just an international comparison, as you can see, of gun-related killings. So like in the U.S. in 2016, it was 64% of
killed by gun violence. England has the smallest percent, but I know personally in England it's small like that because a lot of people don't have guns there. But I know police officers don't carry guns in England. They're really trained with knives and defense and how to control any extreme event that has happened. In Canada, it's second highest, and in Australia, it's only 13%. Effects of concealed weapons in school. Schools should be a safe haven from the violence that touches so many Americans, yet many states lack proper legal protection against the presence of firearms in school. Dangerous gaps in gun-free school laws have concealed carry exceptions, threaten the safety of children, and increase the likelihood of tragic school shootings. Meanwhile, the guns lobby effort to force schools, colleges, and universities to allow guns on campus poses a threat to the safety of post-secondary students and educators. Also, to what extent will we go to make sure teachers are capable of having concealed weapons? Teachers that's a mistake. Teachers with concealed weapons can be trauma stress for students. So like a lot of people say, should teachers be able to have weapons in school, but we don't agree because like teachers also have issues sometimes, and you never know if they come in with a problem and feel like they want to react and shoot up the school. That's also a problem there too. So it's like we just have to find other ways to fix this issue.
Why concealed weapons should not be allowed in schools? For starters, less than 5% supported a policy to arm teachers or administrators. In contrast, they strongly supported policies to put school resource officers in every school. Guns have no place in our nation's schools. The tragedies that took place at Sandy Hook, Columbine, Virginia Tech, and other schools across the U.S. demonstrate the devastating effect guns have on our school communities. Calls to arm teachers are to allow college students to carry guns will only lead to more gun deaths and injuries, not fewer. By contrast, laws that prohibit guns in schools and impose harsh penalties for gun possession to help keep students and educators safe. 75% of teachers oppose to carry guns in schools, and I believe if teachers oppose to want to carry guns, then we shouldn't have to train them to carry guns, because if they don't want to, then they don't feel safe, and then they wouldn't feel comfortable carrying a gun. In a situation, are they really comfortable enough to react? Why concealed weapons should not be allowed in schools. The presence of guns in higher education classrooms also burdens the First Amendment right to academic freedom of speech. Guns can impede the candid discourse that is critical to the collegiate experience. Also, allowing guns on campus poses a grave threat to people employed by schools, as well as making the workplace more dangerous for university staff and faculty.
So disadvantages of teachers carrying concealed weapons. Allowing guns on campus would likely lead to more campus homicides and suicides. Young adults between the ages of 18 to 25 experience the highest rate of serious mental illness. Between 9% and 11% of college students seriously consider suicide in the previous school year, and about 1,100 college students committed suicide each year. When a gun enters this mix, a suicide attempt becomes considerably more lethal, as 85% of gun suicide attempts are fatal. We said disadvantage of teachers carrying concealed weapons. When teachers have guns, it can create an unsettling and uncomfortable environment in classroom settings. For students of color, guns in classrooms could be deadly. Putting guns into the hands of school teachers would be extraordinarily dangerous for Black and Latino students who are already often forced to try to learn in hostile environments where they're treated as threats. We already know about the case with Trayvon Martin, where he was a 12-year-old Black boy who was a threat to a grown man. How unlikely would it be for a white teacher to see a Black student and fear for their life? People misinterpret Black people's behavior with deadly consequences. Also, armed civilians are less likely to stop crimes and more likely to create dangerous situations if there were to be an active shooter in a classroom setting.
In conclusion, at least 15,549 people were killed by guns in the United States in 2017. Guns in higher education classrooms also burdens the First Amendment. More individuals are against having guns on school grounds, and gun laws should be and lastly, there needs to be more effective solutions to reduce crime rates on school properties instead of having teachers and professors carry concealed weapons.
Okay, guys, so this poster, we basically saying no to gun violence, and basically there's a picture of the Obamas because, so we say no to gun violence, so there's a picture of the Obamas. They said no to, they were against it, and then fight the power because we've had enough and we're tired of the black crimes and stuff like that. But yeah, say no to gun violence.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
How old was Trayvon Martin?
He was 16. Tamir Rice was 12, and he was playing at the park. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Now, I don't have a question, but the only thing I'm going to say is that I think what's going on, and it's just been proliferated for years and years and years, is that we just don't know how to get along with people. We can't be together in any setting without having our phones with us, communicating with someone else through phone or device. You know, it would be great if we could just one day just say, you know what, let's just not take our phones. This one day of no phone day. And just see how we can, see how we can relate to each other. Force ourselves to talk to people, to get along with people. I agree 100% that when it comes to ethnicity, when it comes to Caucasian cops and black folks, that they just don't know that community. They don't come from that community. So a lot of times these police officers are hired from other states to patrol your community. And my answer to that is develop police officers from your community. And you won't have that problem anymore because now you have police officers that look like you and come from your community. Yes?
But would you say that cultural sensitivity training would also be an effective way to kind of alleviate that problem? Because I feel as though, like, part of the issue is that they don't understand the culture that we have.
Exactly.
And then they...
Yeah, and you know what? Absolutely, you're 100% correct. Because guess what? We're not going to fix that. We're not going to fix the problem that we're not developing police officers from our community. So we're stuck with this guy from Jersey, right? Nothing against Jersey, but you know, you have a police officer that grew up in Jersey and is now patrolling Dover, Delaware, okay, and doesn't know anything about Dover, Delaware. Probably, you know, came from an affluent community, now has to deal with, you know, not so affluent or whatever. Yeah, cultural sensitivity, definitely. Unless of course the department's looking to get sued, which is what happens throughout. So yeah, good job.
You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a white cop that insensitive. I mean, you can have, it's black cops that's insensitive too. And they can be from the neighborhood. Because what happens sometimes is, it's the guy that got picked on that ends up being the police officer. The next thing you know, I'm a big man on campus now. So I'm looking at you with a different eye, or damn, I remember that guy like that used to bother me. So now you can't bother me because I have my gun, I have my badge. So I mean, and you know, when I was younger, I was driving my mother's car. I was, might have been like 20, 21. I literally drove one block, and the officer came and stopped me. A block from my house was a new car, 95 Accord, nice looking car. And he stopped me to ask me what I was doing in the car. When I told him it was my mother's car, you know what he said? Why are you driving your mother's car? Now, I'm on my way to work, actually. So, I mean, I don't think that was, I think that was just somebody who wanted to stop me, who wondered why I was in this car because of my age. And it wasn't right. You know, he told me to take the keys out the car. Why are you telling me to take my keys out the car that I'm driving? You know, and just one more quick story. I used to go back and forth to DC. This has been around this age. I got stopped. No, I was on my way back to school. I had a detective come up to me and say, you know, where are you going? I'm going back to school. Where's your school? It's in Jersey, but I had to get on Philly to get to Jersey. So my ticket said Philly. So now it's a question of, well, you're lying. Well, how am I lying? I mean, I had a damn college shirt on that said King. Didn't say Georgetown, didn't say Villanova, wasn't a big school. So who the hell's gonna wear a small time school shirt? He ended up searching my bag. I ended up having to let him search my bag so I could get on the Amtrak to come home. And again, it was just because of my skin color and my age. You know, as you get older, sometimes it'll lighten up. But I mean, I just said that to say that I think you do have to have an understanding of the community, but I think you have to have an understanding of people. And if you just had a common decency and respect everyone, it wouldn't even come to that. That's it.
Okay, so now we'll hear from group 3.
I'm Lauren Rogers. I'm Brittany Moles.
I'm Amor Suarez.
I'm Marcus Johnson.
Zorian Ware.
Alexis Henderson.
Indiana.
And our stance is we are against having concealed weapons on campus.
Concealed weapons should not be allowed on campus because there are fatal accidents that can alter many lives. Campus police should be trained rigorously to better disarm a gunman instead of letting students carry weapons of their choice.
So campus policy, as of right now, carrying a weapon is prohibited. In the handbook, it states that the university will not tolerate any possession and or use of weapons, drugs, fighting, or other forms of assault and battery on university premises or during university activities. Can y'all see the fire?
So when you come to think why we have rules in place, it's hard to decide who is mentally capable of carrying a concealed weapon. Everyone does not acknowledge that they have a mental illness, and then discrimination will be increased if concealed weapons were allowed.
And just to elaborate on the mental illness, it is very hard to, as we know, mental illness affects your daily living, your thinking, your actions, your behaviors. So as we know, it is very hard to diagnose at times, and some people do not come forward with their mental illness. As we know in Florida, the shooting that happened recently, the individual was not, he did not make it known, and not everybody was aware that he had a mental illness. So he had that weapon, and he did have behaviors that resulted in people losing their lives. So mental illness is a reason why we should not have guns on campus as well.
And then we have other standpoints. We saw a quote that a senator from Houston said, and it's crazy because he's from Houston, and in Texas they have the concealed weapon carry laws for college campuses. And he says that we should be arming our children with 21st century education, not arming them with handguns. As the cost of higher education continues to grow, it doesn't make sense to push more unfunded mandate on the backs of students and their families. And if we do allow concealed weapons, budget cuts will be taken in place. So that means budget cuts from research, budget cuts from any other positive university activities can affect the campus. Colleges are really expensive, so imagine having to be responsible for funding gun storage and up-to-date campus security. There's times and place for everything. Hallways and classrooms are not the place for guns. Allowing guns on campus will be costly, distracting, and dangerous. DSU don't have funding for other things such as Wi-Fi. You know, we all got a parking issue, gotta pay for parking, even though you live on campus.
Roads messed up, you still got to do
We still gotta pay, you know. So DSU, it will be another place we have to build in order to securely have our guns placed. The students can get into anything. Also, it would just cost more money that we as students cannot afford.
So this next one is just a personal touch. So when you think about your life, whether it be in your family, a friend, someone you know, it affects all of us. So just think about a personal touch. You are affected just as much as other people are because we all have experienced a loss to guns. So we all need to realize that our behaviors and our actions, whatever we think and whatever policies we feel that should be in place will affect other people. And we also just wanted to add that when you're on a college campus, you want to feel safe, as we all know. You want to feel like you don't need to worry about somebody having a random moment where they're upset and they fire a gun in your classroom. So we just have to think about those things, and not everybody's reaction is going to be the same as yours. Just because you get upset and you calm yourself down, somebody else might blow up. So it's just we don't know how people are going to act with a gun in their possession.
That's all for our slideshow. Our vision board is lazy.
And our vision board, we also just wanted to touch on, we have to think about children as well, because not only on campus do we have adults, we also have the children here for the early childhood program. So we just have to think about our children, and we want them to grow, we want them to go to college. And some incidences where guns are involved, we have children getting shot just by crossfire. So we can't just think about ourselves, we have to also think about the children involved and the people around us. So our poster board just kind of touches on that mostly, and we just don't feel like guns are necessary on campus.
One second.
So within your group, everyone agreed that on this topic? No one had to be convinced?
I mean, can I ask you why would someone disagree?
Why would someone disagree?
Why do people think that guns should be allowed on campus? That's my issue. And maybe not everyone in this room will have that same thought, but there are people out there who think that guns are the solution when we've seen that's been nothing but problems. So who would agree with that?
And I agree with her because we also had this discussion in the class prior to today. And we like in class, we were all having an in-depth discussion about, whether guns should be, and I took the question to like my friend, outside of class, like in the social setting, and like she just said, a lot of, even all of our friends, they have different standpoints on what, how guns should be controlled on campus. And, a couple of my friends said that, we should have guns. So, yeah.
So, previously we had this question, if we were, for instance, God forbid, if we're in this room and a gunman was on this campus and they were outside this room, how would we get out? First of all, that shouldn't even be a question that we even should think about, but that's the world we live in, that's what's going on today. So based on classrooms alone, DSU is not built for somebody to jump out of a 2-story building or find their way out of a classroom like this. Like, we're not prepared for that. If you give a student that is armed or something, there's no way to tell how that person is going to handle a situation within this building. If they're in this building, the whole building is compromised. There's 4 floors. There's over 300 kids in this building at times. Like, how's everybody going to get out? This window, you can't jump out this window. There's no way out. There's one way in and one way out.
And it's not to take away the right to have a concealed weapon outside of campus. It's just on campus, it's not necessary. You're here for your education. So we don't feel like it needs to be a gun on campus. It doesn't make sense.
Can I just throw something in the mix? I'm kind of saying, and if you're being completely honest, I'm kind of neutral. Because like I said, in different times, you have to understand what that gun symbolizes to a person. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm trying to take somebody's life. It's like, oh, I feel safe. And if we being completely honest, it's been many a time where people don't feel safe on Dell State. So I get what you're saying, but let's take a step back and see, like, it's not really meant as a threat. It's so I can feel protected, I can feel safe. It's like somebody don't feel comfortable enough to call the police.
I agree with you. However, why would a gun be a solution though? Why would it have to be a gun is a weapon? I know, something, everybody has something they feel safe with, but why would it be a gun? A gun is something that could take somebody else's life. You ain't put nobody on earth, but you don't have the power to take anybody off this earth. But why have a gun? What about a gun makes you feel safe?
What's the difference between a gun, my hands, a taser, a bat?
But people don't have the training to use guns, and that's another issue.
First of all, half the people buy guns don't know how to shoot them. They're affecting themselves. They could hurt themselves shooting a gun, to be honest. Let's talk about it.
Also,
You have something else to say?
So from what you just said,
I just want to comment that guns, hands, they all just the weapons. People kill people. Right. That's the thing. So whatever we got, they feel like they can use to whatever motive to kill the other person.
yeah, but the likelihood of you killing somebody with your mace or your bat or whatever, whatever you have, is very likely than if you like had a gun. Like, there's too many variables in school that can cause somebody to lose their life. Like, we have roommate disagreements. A lot of people that come from high school, I came from college when I was 17. 17-year-olds don't need guns. I've had multiple situations with my roommates where things got escalated or knew somebody down the hall that was having disagreements with their roommates that got escalated. A gun in the equation would just like result in something so bad, like even if it wasn't to like, oh, we gloating like, oh, I got a gun. Accidents happen, like even if it's not intended, guns can like turn out to be very tragic and something that you, I have a gun and your gun go off and you shoot someone. It's just like it's unnecessary drama that we need on campus. And I do feel as though we are just jumping to the gun conclusion instead of saying, well, what other solutions can there be? Like we talked about in previous PowerPoints, well, what are we trained to do if someone does come in here with a gun? But yet you guys allow us or expect the students on campus to have a gun. We don't know what to do in a simple situation. How would we know what to do in a situation like that?
Okay, so having conversation with some students, because like I do talk about this with other people, and a lot of people feel like having a gun on campus is better than public safety, which I completely agree. I agree with the public safety part, not the gun part, because I really don't like public safety. Like I have a big issue with them on this campus because there's been so many times I really could have died, and nobody cares to say.
I don't want to say it's that. It's not that. I'm telling you, it's the way we're being communicated. It's the communication. It's how you talk to
And some of them have really bad attitudes.
Oh my God.
No, but you
Okay. Patrolman Camacho, excuse me. Okay. Okay. Can we hold our thoughts for 1 second and let Patrolman Camacho address it?
So what am I addressing? I'm addressing the police officers. What police officers have? Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Right. So the only thing you can get with me after the class. Get with me. All right. Seriously, I'll talk to you about how you can fix that. Okay. One thing, when you carry a concealed weapon, right? Say for example, you do get a carry concealed license, and what happens if you use it? Can anyone tell me? What happens if you use that gun in self-protection?
You can get arrested.
Huh?
If you kill somebody, you can still get arrested.
You can still get arrested. You automatically become a defendant. Yes.
There's no self-defense laws in Delaware.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is.
Really?
Yeah, write this down. Delaware Code, Title 11, Section 464. It doesn't matter. If you take someone's life, you automatically become a defendant. Automatically. That means you have to hire a lawyer. That means that you're going to be the one that has to answer to a court of your peers as to why it was you killed somebody. Just keep that in mind. Yes. Section 464. Yeah, so 464. It actually talks about self-protection, the use of deadly force, the whole bit. But I will tell you this real quick, because I know I am taking up way too much time. In this case, if Miracle slaps me in the face, right, and walks away, I can't go after her and smack her back in her face. That's not self-defense.
She gotta hit you like 3 times, right?
She got to put me in the corner. She got to corner me right there and not let off of me in order for me to call that self-defense. If she smacks me in the face and walks away, I got to let it go. That's how it is in the state of Delaware.
Hello everyone, I'm Miracle Weeks.
I'm Alyssa Greger.
I'm Ruby Willerama. I'm Michaela Thomas. Amber Hunt.
Samara Harris.
Jamal Bell.
Edward Group 4.
I'm just gonna explain our vision board, which is over there for a second. We chose the motto, is this a college campus or a war zone? Because a college campus is a place where you should feel safe and get to know who you really are as a person and make lifelong friends, while a battlefield is the place to dodge bullets and strategize your safety and worry about what you're going to do in an emergency situation. And the two settings should not become synonymous, and we believe that by introducing guns on campuses, we would be making them an equivalent setting.
Well, you can't really see it, but I put down I found the statistics for school shootings on both high school and college campuses. There were over 200 school shootings from 96 to 2016. I wrote down some of the ones on college campuses. One that stuck out to me was Virginia Tech. There was 2 school shootings there. One resulted in 1 death, but another resulted in 32 deaths. And all the shootings happened on places where they have a right to carry on campus.
Okay, and I'm going to be talking about the Delaware gun laws that they have in place right now, as far as who can carry, who can't carry kind of thing. So the state constitution, Article 1, Section 20 states that a person has a right to keep and bear arms for the defense of self, family, home, and state, and for hunting and recreational use. And basically, licensing of owners, you do need to have a license to sell. Permit to carry a rifle or shotgun, you don't need one, but a handgun you do. Permit to purchase, you don't need one for a rifle or shotgun or a handgun. And registration of firearms, you don't need one for either one as well. Okay, and then so basically what do you need to be able to have a permit to carry a gun? So you need to be a resident. Permit is valid for 3 years when first issued, and renewals are valid for 5 years. You must be 18 years old. You must have completed a firearms training course, have 5 references from the county that you reside in, never been convicted of a felony or a crime of violence, and never been convicted of an unlawful use, possession, or sale of drugs, have never been committed of a mental disorder to any hospital or mental institution. And basically where you can carry it is you can carry it on the roadside or rest areas, in your car, and all areas of state except you can't have it at police stations, school bus, state-approved slots, courthouse, police stations, prisons and other facilities, and wildlife management areas. And then, so new laws and policies to be considered as far as do we need to change the law, should we implement more laws regarding guns. So basically on Thursday, April 19, the Delaware Senate considered a House Substitute 1 to House Bill 330 legislation, which basically would prohibit the law-abiding adults ages 18 to 20 from purchasing or transferring a rifle or rifle ammunition without permission from a parent or guardian. So basically saying that you wouldn't need permission in order to do that from your parents if you are 18, 19, or 20. And basically, Delaware state residents, they feel very strongly against gun control laws, therefore they rejected this law.
Self-defense claims and carrying
Self-defense is a common defense claim by a person who is accused of assault or homicide. In the state of Delaware, the use of force upon or toward another person is justifiable when the defendant believes that such force is immediately necessary for the purpose of protecting the defendant. The main purpose for weapons are for defense. For personal reasons, people get firearms to defend themselves. But because a gun is a deadly weapon, it should only be used in life or death situations. The problem with this sometimes is people feel threatened in situations where their life may not be in actual danger. And because of this, how smart is it to put guns in the hands of these people who feel threatened or like their life is in danger when it's actually not? At DSU, we are a predominantly African American institution, and every day, just because of the color of our skin, we are stereotyped, and people see us as criminals and fear us. A couple weeks ago, I was in, well, I don't know, y'all call it the police station? Yeah.
Safety building?
Yeah, I was in there. And it was a teacher, it was an Asian teacher, he was given a complaint and trying to get a police report done because a student kicked his door because he didn't want to let the student in. And he was just trying to say like, oh, I felt threatened and all this stuff just because the student kicked the door. So if that teacher had a gun in his hand and he also felt threatened in that situation, would he have used it? So how safe is that and how smart is it putting guns in the hands of these people who are at times fearful of us and stuff when they get harm us?
All right, I wanted to shine light on suicide because that's kind of like often forgotten when talking about concealed weapons. And so I just wanted to say that it can get in the wrong hands. It might be a situation where it might be that individual that is actually going through something personal in their life and they're not mentally or emotionally stable, and they might want to actually use a handgun and shoot themselves. That's like also, I also wanted to just let y'all know that, well, just enlighten you that regardless of like other people without handguns, people use like ropes or like they cut themselves, anything like that, and I think a gun is just adding more onto it. And another point is that more than 1,000 suicides occur on college campuses every year in the United States, and 1 in every 10 students have made a plan for killing themselves. The majority of suicide attempts use poison or overdose, which I was saying earlier, and result in a fatality only 2% of the time. Firearm suicides, however, result in a fatality in 85% of attempts. And effective August 1st, Texas will be the 8th state to allow concealed weapons, while on the other hand, other states such as Utah are hesitant because they passed a law in 2004 stating there's no sustainative research evaluating the policy's influence on suicide rates. So I just want y'all to just think about that, and it may sound a little suspicious. A man by Jeffrey Swanson, which is a medical sociologist at Duke University, argues that the high lethality of firearms as a means of suicide ought to give policymakers pause, considering how the academic and personal stresses of college can raise the odds of a student attempting to take his or her life. And I also wanted to add that think of the situation as if when you're bringing something, when you're allowing something to be put into like a law or anything, like bringing guns. Think of it like students are like kids or dogs. Like they want, like when you're a kid or you're a dog and you see something that you want, you're like going to gravitate to it. So I just wanted to put it to that perspective. That's it.
Okay, I have a bunch of statistics and stuff, but I'm going to just summarize them really fast and basically say that college is a time for experimenting as you're getting to know yourself. A lot of college students obviously tend to gravitate towards trying drugs and alcohol. Not here because we're an alcohol and drug-free campus, obviously. But a lot of other colleges do. Their students participate in
drugs and alcohol. And it's also been proven that lots of firearms death and injuries also involve being under the influence of drugs and alcohol. So introducing that to not fully matured population, experimenting with drugs and alcohol and firearms is obviously about a situation that's going to explode. And I'm only going to share one of my statistics that says about 696,000 college students between the ages of 18 and 24 reported being assaulted by another student who had been drinking within a 4-year study. So those are just physical assaults without a weapon. Imagine if we added guns in that mix and somebody got drunk, they had a gun, they wanted to assault someone. Now they fight back, they have a gun, they're going to use it.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes. All right, I'm gonna summarize this overall. Having guns on campus makes it more likely for accidents and fatal things to happen physically.
It's possible guns can go off by accident. Okay. Although accidental discharges do occur, there are rare serious injuries or death resulting from such incidents are even rarer. As of spring 2018, SCC has documented 4 resulting negligent discharges at campus carry colleges. On May 4, 2015, a police cadet at Utah Valley University was showing his handgun to a fellow cadet on their way to the police firearms class. The gun discharged grazing the chest of the other cadet. On September 2, 2014, a professor at Idaho State University was carrying an hostile handgun in his pants pocket while teaching the class. The handgun discharged, shooting him in the foot.
Yikes.
On November 9, 2012, a staff member at University of Colorado School of Dental Medicine was showing her handgun to 2 of her co-workers. The gun discharged as she was attempting to reload it. The bullet ricocheted off a filing cabinet and nicked her and a co-worker in their legs. And the last one, on January 4, 2012, a student at Weber State University in Utah was carrying a handgun in his pants pocket while walking across campus. The handgun discharged, shooting him in the leg. All of these incidents appeared to have handguns. Some involved license owners showing the handgun to a second party. Some of the incidents were caused by a license holder carrying a handgun in their pocket. The increased danger that accompanies and handling firearm is one of the reasons SCC fights proposals such as placing gun lockers outside of classrooms or requiring a license holder to empty the chambers of their guns before stepping onto campus.
We also had a video, but it's okay.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Group 4 for improvising. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Can we give them a round of applause? Okay. I want to also thank our panel, Patrolman Camacho, Patrolman Little, and Eugene Richardson. Thank you guys. You did an amazing job. Thank you for being cooperative. I appreciate you.